by choosing to end my life on my own terms, exactly as I wanted, there is an ability to appreciate myself, to see myself as complete. Well, I am thrilled that we're doing this because this is, for me, this is a dream come true. As I'm sure we'll discuss, Klee is something that has been with me for a very, very long time. And the concept of a completed life has to do, at least for me, with what your lifelong dreams are, what your intentions are, what you most wanted to accomplish and do in your life, the things that you really, really felt were important to accomplish, experience, do in your life. And life, to me, has to be good. It has to be the time when you try the longest, whatever length it is, time, when you have dreams and aspirations and goals and all those things that we all have as we grow and when we have families, raise families, all those things. And I never thought about when I was a young mother, when I had young children, I was a young mother with young children, and then growing up children, and then grown up children. I was developing, I would say, a vision of what I wanted my life to look like. And what I just said is, in fact, the concept of the completed life. I was encapsulating in my mind what I wanted my life to look like. Well, obviously, my life to look like, at least to me, assumes that it will have an end. I saw some terrible deaths when I was very young. The first of which was my sister's best friend, whose name was Gabby, died of leukemia in 6th grade. So it was a long process, and she wasted away, and I saw it, and she used to come. They were very, very close, the way little girls are best friends at that age. And my sister was completely devastated. I was just horrified that this child was literally disappearing. There came the last time we saw Gabby. I was well aware that I was witnessing a death, and it was a child. It was my sister's best friend, and my sister was beyond devastated. And then I added this to my How People Die baggage, and my first child died immediately after birth. That was a horrible death I didn't witness because in those times, that was 1969, when that occurred. It wasn't a stillbirth. I had a normal pregnancy, normal delivery, and the baby never breathed. The way they dealt with that at that time was pretend it didn't happen. So my husband was instructed to go home, take everything out of the nursery, and 3 or 4 hours after I delivered, I went home and it didn't happen. I guess I'd been, prior to that, I'd always thought about suffering at the end of life. And I had a lot of thoughts about the non-necessity for suffering at the end of life. And I used to get very upset when I read about, heard about extended, difficult, terrible, in my words, deaths. There came a time when I believed that you didn't have to die badly. And I looked at all deaths that I was familiar with were bad, because people suffered. And I've always had a really strong conviction that God never intended people to suffer at the time of death. There's enormous satisfaction in knowing that I don't have to worry about what could hit me any moment or what could happen to me or how I would not be capable of doing what I'm doing. And I'm having a more, I don't want to use the word complete, but it is a more complete picture of how my life is completed and how much of what I wanted to do with my life I have done. I have a sense of peace with it that I wouldn't have been able to have, because in normal life, you don't know how long it's going to be. You don't know when it's going to end. And it's been a very interesting journey. And it is a journey. And I realized it's been a wonderful experience because I know that I'm able to do something that other people don't get to do. Life, when you say life, well, when I say life, I'm alive. I'm alive now. I'm alive. And yet I feel my life is complete. And there is a possibility over which I have no control, that my life could become more than a burden, could become an agony and a suffering time. And I don't want, I want always to think of life as being the greatest gift there is. I don't know, but I believe that I am giving up, choosing to give up some good years of life. And I make a very clear distinction between life and death in terms of life is only life as long as it is able to be celebrated and valued. The life of someone who is terminally ill with cancer or ALS or dementia. To me, I have such terror that if I continue to live when my life is completed, I'm really taking a chance. I mean, I don't want to do that to myself. I don't want to do that to myself. If I am going to declare and make it so public that I believe there is a completed life, and I believe there is a way to live it fully and completely, I should do it because of what I don't want to do. I don't want to suffer. I don't think, obviously, I'm terrified. I think all the time about how am I going to walk out my door for the last time when it's the last time. But, I'll deal with that when it happens. That's the choice I've made, and those realities are a part of the choice I've made. And I also, this is something that I have been very intentional about in my life for a very long time, and people who know me know. I mean, I know there are people who think the idea of a completed life is blasphemy or lunacy. What I am trying to advocate for is autonomy. It doesn't matter what you think. That's what CLE is all about. That's why this is what we're advocating for. Not only the ability to have a completed life, have it be dignified and peaceful, such as the way I'm doing it. It is not possible in the United States at the moment. I know that CLE is advocating for that and will continue to advocate for that. And I hope that my words and my thoughts in this period could ultimately be of value. We have a terrible situation in America. I think we have a terrible situation in terms of the way we think or don't think about the end of life. I wish we would think about it very differently. So I'm really, really glad that we're going to have this opportunity to discuss how I think about the completed life, how I feel about life and death and the relationship between them. Everything that has brought me to this place. And of course, as I think everybody does, I wanted in my lifetime to do something that would change the world. And if it's ever going to be possible, this is how I'm going to do it. And I think it could. I think if people died better, and if we were able to think differently about the end of life and treat people differently as they are approaching the end of their lives, and even as they're dying, I think the world would be a different place. This is a culture, we live in a culture which is very, very anti-death. And death positivity is a term that CLE tries to use and definitely embraces. And hopefully we'll get to talk about how I feel, how people feel in general about death, how the relationship between death and life. To me, it's life is a cycle which ends in death, but it doesn't end because it's that cycle only that ends in death. Life cycle, a living body and actual body. So I'm delighted to have this opportunity.